preparation material that's needed for CISSP. I'm sure you've heard of a book called Memory Palace, and that's always on the first. That's usually listed as the first bullet item. That's something that you start with, and you also use as a last-minute summary 1 week before the exam. So we have Prashant himself today honoring us. So we're planning. It's like an Ask Me Anything session with the community. Prashant has also recently launched a new book called Cirrus, which is for CCSP aspirant, and I hear it's on the lines of Memory Palace, even better. So yeah, I think with that said, Prashant, over to you. Why don't you just tell a little about yourself, and just take that from there.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm kind of excited. And first of all, I would like to thank Kunal for reaching out to me that if I want to do something like that. So yeah, so I'm kind of like feeling honored to be here on this. And really thankful to all the admins and the moderators and everybody who's supporting this community certification station. I'm not sure if you guys know about it or not, but this community has gained a lot of popularity in a very short span of time, and a lot of great people who are a kind of a support system for this. All the admins, moderators, professors, and one who's listed down on the right column of the channel, whatever you would see. So these guys are the real deal. So, well, you guys will know me from the person who keep on posting weird stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook, and sometimes I do talk about security. My name is Prashant Mohan, and I give you a brief background about from like how exactly I got into this industry, what I do in my professional life, and what came to my mind about giving away this Memory Palace and Cirrus. So it's been more than years now into this industry of security. Have been really fortunate to work with various organizations and into multiple domains of security. I'm really fortunate to have all those flavors of like identity and access management, auditing and compliance, assessment, application security, and I'm a security architect from last more than 5 years now, I guess. It's been a great journey. I do sometimes, not it's not my full-time job though, but I do sometimes train people in terms of your CISSP and CCSP. It's just like whenever on weekends I get time, I engage with Prob. I'm sure you heard his name from InfoSec Train, and we do some of the sessions, and it gives me an opportunity to interact with a lot of people across the globe, so that somehow I become a very small part of their journey towards their security. So it did feel great. Regarding this Memory Palace, how it came in mind, because when I appeared for CISSP, it was almost 5 years ago, and at that time we didn't have much of the resources, and I thought I have my own notes. Why not I simply publish it online, and probably just in case, if people will find it useful, they can use it. Otherwise, I'm just going to do it for my own sake of satisfaction. So to Luke, you would know Luke from Study Notes and Theory. He's the founder of that, and author of one of the greatest books, like a manager. So I reached out to him. It was still 2018, I guess. That hey, I'm working on this project. Would you be able to publish this in your website, on your website? He said, yeah, let's do it. And I just simply made a raw draft. I mean, people, in case if you've given a look at the book, it's more of a very rough format. It doesn't have any formatting. you might see the variation, the fonts. You might see there's no problem. It's just because we didn't hope that anyone would read it, right? That's the reason I said that, okay, let me draft something and I'm going to send it across to you. And he did upload it. And we were hoping that no one is going to read it because it's not a primary resource. It is not going to replace your primary books or the other resources. But somehow we did got a lot of good responses. People started downloading, reading it. I personally got good feedback, some of the constructive criticism, and some of it was just that we didn't have anyone to review Major League. We didn't have any kind of a publication to give a technical review and everyone and other kind of a thing. So people reached, there's a typo, there's a word. So we started fixing those. And I think it's in 3.5 years, it's making difference. Even if a single person is making a benefit out of it, I'll think I made an effort in the right direction. So, well, that was a kind of a quite long introduction, I guess. So that is a little bit about me. So I'm kind of up for questions.
Yeah. I think I would ask you this: that Memory Palace. Are you a hardcore Sherlock fan, or is there a story with coming up with that name?
All right, so this is fun stuff. The book came out with a different title earlier when we were just drafting it. So we have an 11th hour written by Eric Cormack. Mm-hmm. And I thought I'm going to give something very similar name, but it is less than 11th hour because it doesn't require you to read a book just 11 hours before your exam. It's just going to take little less time. We came up with a book title called 8 Hours. I don't know what went into the mind of getting 8 as a number, but we went with that. Then Luke, if you go to some of the old posts, Luke's page on Instagram, you will still see the note of 8 Hours. It's a quick refresher for CISSP. But then I started discussing that, hey, it might come up with some sort of trouble because there's already a book called as 11th Hour, and we do not want any kind of trouble there because we respect work done by Eric, and it's a lot popular book, and no one is going to notice this one because we already have a massive giant publication called as 11th Hour. So we thought what to do. Now, I gave it the name of Memory Palace because I considered this book as my final thing. And I say this to a lot of people, whoever I interact with, I always tell them that, hey, CSSP is all about initial few domains you try to put down the dots. And as you proceed further, you keep on connecting the dots. So like building some of the missing links and you try to build it across. So, and yes, I am kind of a fan of Sherlock Holmes, not kind of a die-hard fan, but yeah. So we watched the series of Sherlock Holmes, and Dr. Watson used to explain what exactly Memory Palace is all about. And that is where it. So I the name initially Mind Palace, and post discussion, one of the co-authors of this book modified it to Memory Palace. So that's how we got the name.
Awesome, and then I can recall Cirrus would have a similar genesis from maybe something else to a cloud fighter jet, a cloud plane.
Interestingly, even before the thought of writing the CCSP book, the title came in before. I mean, I was not planning to write anything, but the title came in before because this was the cloud certification. So Cirrus are the very high clouds. You would find the Cirrus clouds at the very high altitude. And Cirrus is an aircraft. All right? So I was trying to, the people were reaching out to me that, hey, do you have something in mind to publish similar to your Memory Palace? We are waiting for something to come up with for CCSP because CSP was still relatively new, and people didn't have much of the materials to go through. So I said, okay, let's see how it goes. But the title came in earlier, so that's the reason I thought if I ever in future I'm gonna write something very similar to CISSP for CCSP, it's going to be the name. Doesn't matter if it has been taken by some other books or not. I'm gonna go with this thing. So that is how it came, because I already had this thing in my mind, because Cirrus are the high level clouds, and that's the reason I said that it is just a level overview.
Yeah, and I think that's also, yeah, I think that's a very good reminder that the ISC2 exams are high level, require a high level managerial mindset. You don't have to be in the weeds, solving, creating firewall rules or something, but only need to have an understanding how cloud is secured. So I think that's also a very good reminder of where Cirrus flies. And I don't know if I want to remind it. I want to remind everyone in the community, that Prashant has effectively also followed very closely the fourth ethic, which is advance and protect the profession. So by contributing his knowledge back to the community, that is how he's living up to that ethic very, very efficiently or very successfully about giving back to the community and advancing and protecting the profession. So yeah, and that's a very important, and when we talk about ethics from an exam perspective, I would say you should know the four ethics and when and where they're applied. And, you might definitely get a question in both CISSP and then CCSP or any other ISC2 exam you take.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an important topic for exam. Make sure that you study that really well.
Right. And then, so you've written two ISC2 exams, and you've got a good handle on book writing. Any other exam that you may be considering, or any other topic in the future, security plus, or maybe something else that's on your mind right now?
So I might appear this was a plan for last year, but last year I got COVID and this plan got derailed. I was about to write that the concentration for CISSP in architecture, because this is what my role is. So I was to write the exam for ISSAP, but the plan got derailed because I got COVID. So this year I'm thinking to do that. And what I have seen that IC Square haven't updated the materials. The last book that we have, I think it's from 2015, from Adam Gordon, and that's and the most recent exam outline is from 2020, October 2020. So it's a 5-year-old material that we have. That book is relevant. However, we need a lot of new topics like mergers and acquisitions, zero trust, microservices. These kind of things have been included in the. Okay. So then I didn't give a thought that I might write it, but in case if I plan something, so that is one of the areas I'm kind of interested in, and I think I include some of my real world experiences as well from my architecture experience at work. I can go ahead and include some of the thoughts there. Try to relate it or map it with the examination concepts. So this is what might happen in the future. I'm not giving too much thought on that. Next, I'm working on it. 2 books that I'm working. Like one book it's written by. Well, he came up with a brand last week. He announced a brand, one of these CISSP and CCSP and other products as well. So he wrote the CISSP book. I worked as a technical reviewer and editor on that along with Luke. And there's another book that is about to get published, I think, this year. It's still a working project, so I cannot disclose the name, but it's one of the authors. He was writing the books. I'm working as a technical editor there. There are a couple of other projects that just got kicked off. My own personal projects, just like Memory Palace and Cirrus. So I'm working on 2 more books. Most likely, they might get released this year by the second quarter. That's just in the pipeline. So these are the projects that I'm working currently. Let's see.
Awesome. I know we've had a lot of members asking for material on concentrations. Both, I mean, all the three ones, architecture, engineering, and the other one, I think there's very little material, there's very little know-how as to what the exam outline looks like. There's all very dated.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a really good boost for the community. ISSAP, if you write that, because we've known your quality, and then that gives us a lot of material to understand and refer to, because right now there's absolutely none. Like you said, I think for CCSP initially there was none. I think it's even worse for the concentrations. So yeah, I think that would be a bang on.
True. I mean, for engineering, I don't even think they have a book. I mean, IC2 never released a book on engineering practices. I mean, I've never seen even a single edition. There's one in like ISSCP for, but the EP cap, I think there's for EP. I might be wrong, but that's what I think. There's one for MP, two for APs, but I've never seen anything for EP. And that's so weird. I really feel bad for professionals who want to pursue some such certification, but they don't have enough resources. I mean, they do go ahead and publish a lot of out there that these are the reference materials that you should review. That's a good start point. But what I feel is if you want people to pursue for some certification, you should provide at least some of the resources, some of the materials that is, because how exactly people would know. That's what my personal opinion is. People might vary for it or differ from that, but that's what I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything is pretty dated, so there needs to be some official material that people could refer to, at least, to prepare. Of course,
Right.
for example, CISSP and CCSP have gained a lot of popularity in the DoD space and everything. So there's a lot of third-party material available, but nothing really for concentration. And I feel concentrations are a really good segue for people who want to master architecture or engineering, or maybe risk management. So, but yeah, the tools aren't available. So I think the community will be really looking forward to those publications and projects that you're working on with full excitement. Maybe I'm pretty confident we may have more passes on architecture in the community after your book is released.
Looking forward to that. First of all, I need to pass the exam for that. Then only probably I'm gonna go and write something.
Yeah, I know. I think not a lot of people have AP, at least in India. So I mean, that would be another feather in your cap. At least in India. Of course, I know a lot of people take that in the United States and other countries, but I haven't seen a lot of people in India taking that. So yeah.
Right.
Awesome. So I think we got a couple questions on the chat. One of the users asked about just in time. So is this a new topic that has come up for CISSP?
Just in time is a new topic for CISSP based on examination outline 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentally, and this is applicable for every topic. That fundamentally you just need to know how things work at a very high level. You have to go into the detail, into the granularities of every technology, because Square won't test you on those things. IC Square just want you to understand how certain things work. And yes, it's a new topic. Perspective, a lot of organizations still planning to implement those things in their own infrastructure. Some have been successful. Some of them are still able to understand. Some of them are still trying to justification that do we even need this or not. So yeah, from a real world perspective, things are people are still gonna get there. But yeah, from perspective, it's a new topic, and I think you should know at least the basics of it. Why first of all, what this technology is all about, and why do we need it? That's it.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid scenario when we talk about CISSP examinations, and I would mention when I started learning, one of the moderators, Dark Ahmed here, he gave me a very good tip that you should know the what and the why for every topic, and if you can speak about any topic for about 2 or 3 minutes and explain it to someone, that's probably the level of depth you need to know for the exam as well. So if you're getting stuck on any topic, like you start explaining GIT and you're like just in time, and what does that mean? You're not able to recollect. That means you're not ready. But if you can do that for 2 minutes, I think that's enough. So you don't need to go in and learn in depth. Of course, if your experience has been with the technology, uh, then the good part is you understand the topic, but also be mindful that the exam will not ask in depth. So if you choose an answer that may be too technical because of your experience that you were using, that might be the wrong answer. So I can't say it's always right or wrong answer, but it could be. There's a high probability. So yeah, be mindful.
Very well said. That's a perfect way to explain. A lot of times I get a question that how much in detail or in depth we have to know. I say this. I deal a lot with non-technical people and non-security folks, like most of them from a business perspective. I deal with them every day in my work, at my work. So if you're able to explain any topic the way you're going to explain it to a 5-year-old kid, and they are able to comprehend, you are do it that way. For CISSP, you don't need to have every bits and pieces at the ground level. If you have that kind of understanding, that's a scary case. However, someone who do not have any hands-on on all the 8 domains just needs to know how things work at the fundamental level. Basics, just a bit. That's it. And if you're able to explain it to someone, just like Kunal mentioned that, if you're able to talk about the 2 minutes, you are good to go. Damn good to go. Right. So, kind of a question we have next. Let me see if I can pick it up. How do I start there? So, and with the this query and the answer first one. Okay.
Yeah, we had one more question. The categories of laws that are mentioned in Memory Palace, will it cover most of the exam from the exam perspective, and is it same for the NIST publication?
So let me be very honest, and probably even the ballots might require some of the updates and amendment there. Laws specific to US, there are plenty of laws. You have your Online Privacy Protection Act. You have your Educational Reformation Act, FERPA. Your Electronic Communication Privacy Act. There are a lot of acts which are old, which are only specific to US. Don't worry about laws. They won't be there in the exam. Focus on the laws which are globally applicable. Now, I'm going to give you some of the examples. So, GDPR, although it's only applicable for EU, but it tends to have a footprint in multiple use cases. For example, I don't organization in EU. Let's say, for example, customer presence there. In that case, yes, I have to comply with GDPR requirements. All right. If one of my employees, EU resident, yes, I have to comply with that GDPR. Doesn't matter if I have a geographical presence there or not. Same as with that, you need to know what's the privacy law for Canada, what's the privacy law for, let's say, US do not have a privacy law as a nation, but yes, they do have state-specific laws. So, for example, California has it. Other states, some of them have it. So you just need to know some of the privacy laws, and I'll tell you the reason behind it. For different countries, CISSP is a management certification. It is required for someone who takes care of the security posture at an enterprise level. Those people know what privacy impacts might have in case if they ever want to expand the business in some of the locations. So, for example, if they ever want to go at the business in Brazil, they need to know LDPA. To some of the business in Russia, they must know that Russia has its own data localization law, and so on. Not necessary that they will be there in the exam of the CISSP exam, but yes, whatever the content is there in your CISSP, make sure that you know different privacy laws. Whatever there, it's given in your textbooks, official study guide. Different privacy in different countries. Just the name. You don't be very granular about, because essentially every privacy law is created to make sure that they secure the PII. From a you should know what's HIPAA, because that's kind of applicable for the healthcare and it is important. CISSP also taken by or federal employees in US. So yes, you need to know HIPAA. You might want to know what FISMA is all about, just at a high level. GLPA, things. Don't go into the Online Privacy Protection Act, ECPA, or Patriot Act. You don't have to go about that. Industry Espionage Act. These are very specific to US. Okay, understand the different laws for different countries. Just the name. Why do we have that? That's it. That should solve the purpose.
Yeah, I think the lot of confusion that has stemmed here is because CISSP was originated in the US for US military, and at that time, 20 years, 15 years ago, had everything US. But then slowly, I think it started gaining international acceptance. Become a gold standard for security professionals. So I think they also realized they're also including international laws that may have larger ramifications in the international community and not just US. So what I see that OSG might not have been fully revised. I don't see they ever drop old content. They just add over to it. So every year I'm seeing 200 pages of new content getting added, and old ones are never removed. So we still have ISDNs and all those telecom technologies that I never understood, but we still have them. So I think that also causes a lot of confusion to folks. But I think that's a good tip, guys. Just don't overdo everything. Just focus on the new content as well, and understand at a high level how and why these laws work. So yeah, that's a good tip. I think we had another question. So one of the users asked, is Kerberos required to be known in depth or just at a high level? And if it is known, it is required in depth, why is that?
Okay, now, so you don't have to know in depth. You need to know that Kerberos is an authentication protocol that supports your single sign. And benefits and drawbacks, like your KDC, your single point of failure, and you need to make sure that you must have your network time protocol, so that because those TGTs are timestamped. So those kind of basic things works into the symmetry cryptography. That's it. In your practice test, you might get certain technical questions that when the user decrypts their TGT with the hash of its password, what these things is only limited to your practice test. I don't think you will get such kind of technical questions in your exam. I don't think so, but don't take it as a word. But because, like I said, respect what I2 test people, it's just their fundamental understanding. The good thing I like about I2 is they test someone on a certain topic which require memorization. They don't force people to remember those NIST standards, ISO standards, or maybe different international standards like 802.11, 802. For Ethernet, 802.3. Now, I don't think you need to remember all those kind of different standards. Just understand what Kerberos is, right? You need it. And let me put it this way. And probably this is going to simplify for every sort of topic. In your examination mindset of your memory palace, you'll find the state. You want to know about any topic. just try and understand three things. What do you know about that topic? Risk associated to it, and how you can fix it. If you know these three things for every topic, you're good to go. The reason I say this because I get a lot of questions that how do I know if I'm prepared for the exam? Should we start scoring minimum 80%? Should we start scoring 90%? I don't want you to focus on the scores. I mean, it's to have 80% average. That's great. It's going to boost up your morale. But that is not one thing you should use to assess your preparedness, that whether you are prepared for exam or not. I'll tell you why. I have seen people, and this is not to discourage anyone who has been scoring really well, and a kind of a false sense of assurance for someone who is not scoring more than 50%. So I'm going to make this a very kind of a general statement. I have seen failing who were averaging 92%. Trust me, I've seen those people. People passing who are averaging 65 to 68% in the exam, in the practice test. The reason I don't want you to assess yourself based on these scores, you're not going to see these questions in your exam, right? You're not going to see even a single question that you've been practicing in your real exam. Your real exam is different. Your real exam is based on the real world situation, real world problems. They test your adaptability of a situation. They test your knowledge that you have gained, you have acquired so far through the reading process, and how you can implement those for two purposes. First, you just test whether you have understood the concepts or not, and it tends to help you remembering those concepts. Because when you practice a lot of questions, you tend to start remembering those concepts. It is plain science, right? The second benefit you get to know how IC Square expects you to answer certain questions. It gets that mindset, right? So don't lose your heart in case if you're not averaging 80%, right? That's not a benchmark for you to decide whether you are prepared for the exam. This is what I tell you how say people you should assess yourself 20 days before your examination. Hey, do this exercise. Trust me, it is going to help you out. For your examination, and you have to do it for 20 minutes before you go to bed. All right? 20 days, 20 before you go to bed. Your textbook, any textbook you're following, Official Study Guide, All-in-One, CBK, whatever you are following, open the textbook randomly, any page number. You see any topic. You saw VPN. Let's say, for example, book, close your eyes, try and explain VPN to yourself. What exactly? What is the risk associated to it? How do I fix it? Why do we? Right? Okay, if you're able to explain it, okay, move on to the next topic. Open any random page. You saw circuit encryption. What is a circuit encryption? What are the different types? Link encryption, end-to-end encryption. Why do I need it? What's the pros and cons? Why fix it? That's it. If you are not able to answer those, don't go to bed without knowing the topic. Don't go to bed. All right? Know the topic, and if you're able to explain it to yourself, it means you're good to go. Do it for 20 days, for 20 to bed, and that level of understanding is more than enough for you to assess whether you're prepared for the exam or not. But this is what I suggest everyone, and I think you should. Don't let those scores, those marks. I'm not saying that having 80% is a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. What I'm saying is, if you don't, there are a lot of people out there who demoralize those people who couldn't get 80%, right? Don't want you to feel bad in case if you're not averaging. Try and attempt for 70%. That is good enough. Okay? Try and make sure that you get 70%. That's good enough. Even if you're around 68, 67, until your concepts are clear, I'm happy about it. All right? You don't have to feel about it. Just go out there, try to clear your concepts. CISSP is everything about the concepts. If your concept is clear, you don't have to go into the details. You don't have to feel bad about it in case if you're not scoring 80%. That's all I would want to say.
I think that's a great tip. Don't rely on tests alone as a measure of your preparedness. We also do tell that, but I think the top up is that you should be able to assess each topic yourself, and you'd know if you know that topic, if you can speak about it, the risks and everything. So yeah. So
Right.
with that said, any other recommendations? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people reach out to you every day about questions. Anything that you would recommend uh, to the community users here?
Couple of things. Something a lot of people don't do it, and that's actually a game changer for the exam. All right. I want you to take breaks. So, okay, well, before that, sorry, forget about it, whatever I said. Let's take a step back. It's a big commitment. It's not your own personal sacrifice. It's not only that you are missing your opportunities to be with friends, watch your faces, and not having beer, or spend time with your family, whatever it is, right? The people around do an equal amount of sacrifices for you. You spend a quite sleepless night, right? It's not only about money. Money is definitely a concern, but it's not only about the money. It's more of a, I don't want to go back to all those days if I fail, right? What happens is your exam comes near, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxious, and that is normal, right? One thing I can so that people feel comfortable on that day is to start treating your practice test as whenever you take your practice test, take it into a simulated environment, like you lock yourself in the room for 3 hours, all right? And as you're taking your real exam, it's like, I don't want to sound dramatic here, but it's a matter of life and death kind of a situation. Try to do it that way, all right? Now, what would happen? On the day of the exam, you will see there's a difference. You will find your real exam as your just another practice test. It is going to calm you down, right? The exam, and it is something that I want you to do it during your practice test as well. Practice taking breaks. Okay, it is very, very important point. I want everyone, whosoever is listening or whosoever is going to listen to the recording in future, I want one that you should take breaks, right? After every hour, let's say on first hour, you managed to do 40 questions or 45 questions, whatever the amount of questions you have done. Okay? Simply raise your hand, ask him that, hey, I want to go for a quick break. Take a do whatever you want. Drink water, stretch yourself, take a quick walk, splash water on your face, do whatever you want. Clean your head for 5 minutes. Don't think about CSS. All right? Go back and start solving the question from the beginning, like with whatever the time you have taken. Okay? Different happens actually. Our body is capable of having utmost focus only for 1 hour. The only reason our brain functions heavily on oxygen, and when you sit on your butt for 1 hour, the supply through blood slightly decreases. You tend to lose your focus, right? What will happen if you continue beyond 1 hour? Even if it is the simplest question, it will put in effort to understand and solve them. So once in the break, you have reanalyzed your body. If it's perfectly fine, go back and focus again. Same amount of focus that you had on question number 1, right? You're going to have the same amount of focus. Believe me, you will see the difference. And if you don't believe me, test it on. Take your practice test the way you're going to take your real exam, all right? And you will see the difference. You will see the difference. It's going to help you, and it is going to help you immensely. So, because I know how it feels on the day when you're walking towards your examination center after clicking submit. That of like 5 to 10 meters towards the area where they give you a printout. Not wrecking feeling, right? The paper decides your fate. That are you gonna have beer today? You're gonna like back and pick up books and start doing anything. So that's a very important thing I would say, is that make sure that you practice your test as you're taking your real exam, and take breaks. It helps. It helps.
No, awesome. I think practice makes man perfect, and maybe wear a mask if your test center has that thing. I practice that same way, like you mentioned. I used to wear a mask as well because I couldn't just it was very uncomfortable, but then I got used to it. So when I had to wear that on the test, like you said, it was slightly better. My brain
Right.
knew that I had to live with the discomfort of wearing a mask and answering questions and be active as well. So I would say I would personally attest to that, guys. That was very helpful, and I would also add, if you're try to take the exam at home at the same time where you've scheduled it. So if it's in the morning 8 a.m.,
Yes.
yeah, do that. So like Prashant said, make that environment as close as possible to the real test, and think of it as a real test when you're taking that practice exam, so that your brain really understands the environment. Yeah, and you're able to maybe also counter any issues that you get. Maybe uh, you couldn't sit for too long. Plan your breaks, like Prashant said, 50 questions, 100 questions, whenever you want. But yeah, that's probably a game changer. I think. Yeah, I planned my breaks and I took at that same time, regardless whether I was feeling tired or not. So I did take that. I
Right.
can attest to
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Awesome. Good. So now you've told us, Prashant, like a general strategy when you start from day one, how you want to take it. You've told us how we start revamping and revising when it's 20 days. So what about the last week or the last 24 to 48 hours? Anything special? Any other change in the routine or something that we need to pick up or drop during those crucial days before the exam?
Question. It's when you have those, that your examination date coming by, it's a kind of experience or feeling that's filled with emotions, fear, nervousness, and what you need to do, what you need to do. And this is something very important, that everybody should create a list of the topics. All right? Make sure that you know that where you're lacking. It is very, very important that you recognize your problem. And knowing a problem is a bigger part of the problem. A lot of people they're not ready to accept, hey, SDN, I don't think I need to focus on a lot of that. Or maybe Carbros, I don't think I'm okay with that. See, it's very, very important. For the topics that you're already comfortable with, you don't have to work extra hard. For the top, you realize that it could be a small topic, it could be an entire chapter, it could be an entire domain, right? It is very, very important that you list it down, something that you're not comfortable with. 1 week or 10 days, I would say focus on those topics, all right? Pay extra attention on those topics. Reach out to people, reach out to the community, watch YouTube videos. Honestly, people are great outside, people are great in Discord, people are great on Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. First of all, you need these many people in order to help you. You can help yourself by looking out for the answers yourself. Watch YouTube videos, read articles on Google or everywhere, okay? You will be able to get answer. Otherwise, you still have people around to help out, all right? You can ping anyone. So make sure that you have a list of the topics or the chapters that you're not comfortable, and do pay extra focus on that. That is very important. Keep off your full-length test, like 1 or 2 practice tests, which are like full-length 100 questions or 150 questions, whatever the resource material that you're using. Keep at least 1 or 2 for those last week or 10 days. The reason I say this, because I want you to have that momentum of practicing questions. If you stop practicing the test like 20 days before, you might be out of that league of sitting. You might be out of the practice of sitting at one place for 3 hours. So make sure that you keep at least 1 or 2 full-length practice tests, so that you do it or you take it a week before your exam. All right? And as the day comes nearby, like maybe 24 hours or 48 hours before the exam, well, 24 hours before the exam, don't study. Trust, don't study. I really encourage this thing that you want to go to examination center with a clean head, without thinking about CSS, without thinking about any other security topics, because it's done. Last 24 hours are not going to much difference. Okay, so enjoy your time. Watch some kind of light comedy. In case if you're fond of playing musical instrument, play some fond of playing video games. Do that. If you want to watch some movies, do that. Spend time with your family. Do whatever makes you comfortable and light. Just don't play at least 20 hours to 24. All right. Focus on what makes you happy. It's very important to unwind yourself, but make sure that you do it responsibly. Okay, and then make sure that you reach out to your examination center and formalities and step up. And of course, I think people might have, or you already know this. Don't spend time in reading that NDA. You only get 5 minutes. Don't waste time reading the NDA, because in case those 5 minutes get over, the examination will be cancelled. Not sure if you have been told about this or not, but this is how it happens. So the NDA is exactly the same NDA that you see while you book the exam, right? So don't spend time for reading that NDA. Simply give a quick glimpse and accept and move on to the first question. All right, that's how you need to do it.
Awesome. So we got a question. I think we answered it, but so CISSP is like a managerial exam, but is CCSP also at the same level? I think so, but yeah, just wanted to hear it from you.
Yes. Be very honest. Already a CISSP certified, CCS should not be challenging. The general statement that people have said, my experience was entirely different. I CISSP when we still had those 250 questions and 6 hours of exam. And I gave CCSP when we had 4 hours of exam with 125 question, I guess. Yeah. So for me, CSP exam was, I won't say I was completely confident, but I did think that I'm going to pass this exam. CSSP. It went well. For me, CSSP exam went well. My examination was terrible. I literally planning. The moment I submitted my exam, I came out while I was walking towards that reception area where they give you the printout. I started planning. Of the day, I'm gonna whine and crib about how exactly I failed my exam. I started planning what I'm gonna do next, and so on. Somehow I passed. I mean, the examination was very, very, very difficult, very technical for me. People in experience, they found this CCSP exam a lot more easier. And yes, I do agree it would have been a lot more easier, because a lot of concepts are kind of an overlapping from CISSP. So if you're a CISSP certified, CCSP can be that challenging because it requires the same kind of a mindset. Concepts are kind of like at a high level, managerial. Yes, you need to have the same kind of mindset. So there's a saying in CISSP that it's an inch deep and mile wide. I would say CCSP is kind of like deep and still a mile wide, right? So in detail, you need to know. Otherwise, it's a kind of the same mindset you need to have for CCSP as well.
A lot of times in the community, we get this question like, if we do Azure, AWS, or GCP certifications, does that contribute to the knowledge required and for a CCSP specifically?
Slightly yes, but not immensely, because those examinations, I've taken some of the certifications in Azure and GCP. It was required from my organization. I've taken some of the certifications there. So they're majorly focused on how exactly they have set up their own infrastructure. They have their own set. What kind of things you need to know from an Azure perspective or GCP perspective. But CCSP, it prepares you at a very basic and fundamental level. Doesn't matter if you're a service provider or a customer. Doesn't matter. Both the perspective. If you're a customer, how do you plan to choose a service provider for yourself? What kind of a due diligence you should do? From a service provider perspective, how do you configure your own cloud environment and facilitate the services to your customers? So it's from both the perspective. So these vendor specific certifications, it's good to, they're required by your organizations because they have their own cloud setup from these vendors. CCSP is a vendor neutral, vendor agnostic certification. It gives you a high level perspective for both the sides, customers and service providers perspective. So the short answer is beneficial, but not immensely. I did my CCSP without having any vendor certification. I got vendor certification later on, right? But it's going to be just a small benefit. It's totally up to you.
So, since you did CCSP before, does the knowledge acquired for CCSP help in understanding public clouds the other way?
Yes. Because, again, the certification questions on these vendor will be specific to vendor, like how you need to spin up a VM for a GCP, or probably what's a blob in your Azure? How do you go ahead and find the directory in your GCP? So these kind of questions are there, which is specific to these vendors. Whereas for CCSP, there were some of the questions that were very high level. So the knowledge during CCSP preparation, so they did help me. Again, it's true, but more or less the same way, because vendor-specific certifications are kind of specific to their own setup, own configurations. So not immensely helpful, but yeah, it's gonna at least help you in understanding the fundamental these cloud or infrastructure services are set up there.
So I think you were also alluding to the fact that you were thinking about, maybe you had to do the exam again. Luckily, you did not. But if you were to give some advice to someone who is reappearing for CISSP or CCSP or such exams, what is the one or two things that you will tell them to maybe how do they change their strategy the next time to be successful?
Exactly. That's a part. Talk about it, and it's a very sad state of affairs that the world is only about people who succeed. There's not people talk about who couldn't manage to succeed. It's very important to talk about those kind of situations more. This is the thing. It can help, right? First of all, we need to keep this in mind. We need to accept the failure on the first go, right? It's okay to fail because it's just another exam. We have been giving exam all our lives. In colleges, in case if you've done masters there, we all have been giving exams. It's very important that okay to fail. It's just another situation that doesn't define who we are. All right, that's the thing we need to understand. Secondly, in case any by any situation, by any chances, we couldn't manage to cross the line, we couldn't manage to succeed, right? Immediately take a day or two off. All right, it's okay to clean. But on the second day or the third day, try and figure out what went wrong. Was the time management an issue? Was the questions too tricky? Or was I thinking too much? Or did I spend like 15 minutes on question that could have been changed the thing? Whatever the reason is. Or probably I just didn't read the book much. I just simply practiced the test, or didn't practice the test much. I simply read the book. find out the reason. Okay, first try to identify the root cause of that in that event, and then try to eradicate that problem. It's very important. In case, whatever the root cause that you identified, all right, try to work on that. In case the questions were too tricky, then probably you might want to practice a lot of questions so that you get into the right mindset. In case if you spend too much time on a certain question, you need to manage the time. And this is like always say, it is very important that you read the question very carefully, word by word. Equally important that you do not spend too much time on a single question. You might be able to do that question correct or incorrect, but based on that, end up compromising our entire examination. That is not what we want. It's very important to find out what is important for us. I had someone 2 years ago, that person spent 1.5 hours for solving just questions. Now, that person would have been able to pull that exam from that spot. It was almost impossible. The next questions from 25 to another 100 questions, like next 75 questions, even if they were easy, the panicked and started doing the silly mistakes. It is very, very important that you manage the time properly. So find out what's the problem first. And then try to work on that problem for 30 days. Don't 6 months for reappearing. Already spent good amount of time in understanding. You could do it right away. Okay? So not necessarily that you have to book the exam right away. Try and practice your on the shortcomings. Try to overcome those shortcomings. And whenever you feel you're confident, all right, you can go ahead and book the exam and do it right away. Don't wait for 3 months or 4 months to reappear. Until unless there's some major reason for that, I would say quit immediately. When I say immediately, it means in a month or 2, that's it. Do not delay much, because all those concepts and knowledge are already fresh in your mind. Get them. It is okay to fail until unless you see some kind of a financial constraints. Trust me, it's good to reappear within a spot of like a month or 2. That should be good enough.
Awesome. I think that's very well said, because I know a lot of people get dejected. I know some people personally who've just given up after the first attempt, not more because of the money, but because of the importance they gave to the test. But I think what you said about that we've been giving exams all life, I think that's a game-changing perspective, because that's still an exam. And this is where you're more in control with. Maybe if it was a master's exam, you would have to wait 6 months, and then by that time you'd have to do a lot of studies. But here, you are in control. Give it early and then get over with it. Absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah. It's important that we don't have to beat ourselves too hard on this, right? It's just exam, and one particular failure, I just believe this, a failure is just a pit stop on the road towards the success, right? It's just a small pause that you're going to take. You're going to learn from the mistakes, and then you're going to make sure that you come back a better version of yourself. That's how you're going to work.
Awesome. We got a question. So you mentioned about materials. So anything that you personally would say, what's a good practice test material for the community that they should definitely use for their examinations?
Well, all the practice sets are good, but make sure that you practice the questions from the credible sources. Like you have your C-square practice test, you have something from your tool tester from All-in-One, then you have CPK, then you have Horse questions, you have your Adams questions, you have your Wendt questions, Bukes questions. These are some of the credible sources. So make sure that you practice from these credible sources. I'll tell you what will happen if we end up scavenging through the internet to find out some kind of a practice test. You might get more and more number of questions, but it's just like so those practice tests, they just give you an answer. They don't explain why this is an answer. And if this is different than what you think, right, it's gonna fiddle with the integrity of your knowledge. Remember the BIBA model in your domain 3, what it says, no read down. It compromises your integrity. That's the same thing we need to apply. Rely on the credible sources. So you have your official, I named all of them. So all of them are good. Make sure that whatever the practice steps you follow from a credible resources. Don't just look out for practice questions just for sake of doing it. There are plenty of garbage questions out there on internet. They sell it off just to lure people. Trust me, don't go that path. Because like I said, the questions that you're doing your practice test, they won't. Yeah. An exam is entirely different. So rely on that.
Yeah, and I think as you rightly said, I think it hurts more than it helps because they have no explanations.
Right.
And then the brain gets the habit of just rote learning that answer because you thought it was different, but there was no explanation, so you thought this is the answer, and then it starts to screw up with your learning process because you just start to mug up answers, and this P you'll never actually succeed if you're mugging up answers because you really need concepts. I think that's good. So I think that everybody in the community, I would just remind that. So guys, please use credible sources. As Prashant said, there are hundreds of sources available, but they are not credible. They are garbage. You just, if you type a question, that may appear in a source that's not credible. So don't use it. Of course, ask the community if you think a source is legit or not. I'd say any source that provides well-written explanations and whatever Prashant mentioned, the sources, those are the ones that almost everybody uses, and they have a good rate of explaining you the concept. So yeah, but if you find something good, definitely discuss it with the community before starting to use that wholeheartedly, because that might just hurt you. So yeah, that's very good, very well said. And I think good point on the Biba. I think that's how I don't know if everybody noticed. That's how probably you learn concepts. If you can relate those CISSP concepts to real world scenarios, that's exactly what CISSP is. That's you might not get exact question like that, but you would get a question that would, as Prashant said earlier about how in a real life scenario you would use that particular concept. It won't ask you the definition, but an application of that concept, and that's if you can think of those applications in your mind, you're probably good.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said.
So I think as we move to the later end of our seminar webinar, um, I mean, one question that comes up: which exam is more valuable at the moment? Is it CCSP or CISSP?
Uh, well, it's a topic that I think it's a debatable kind of a thing because it's there are two things. Why exactly someone should pursue certification? All right. Number one, someone has a personal aspiration that this is what they want to do. In case, so I have worked with people in my professional work who are CCSP certified, but they're not CISSP certified. This is exactly because they had a role in the cloud security. They didn't have anything on the various kind of information security. They don't want to know about the laws. They don't want to know about your kind of software development or continuity. Now they just focus on the cloud. So all about their personal aspiration, what you want to do in your career, you want to go. Second, just in case if your job requires certain things. Reason I did CCSP because I was about to get a role of cloud security. So that's the reason I opted for CCSP. Otherwise, a lot of time things happen from, I can give you one example from India. In India, industry is more on certification basis, skill or knowledge or experience, which right? People have certification for sake of having the like keep on elongating the list, which is good. It's no one is taking the credit on these personal accolades. It's just it hampers the the the, the value of these certifications, right? So it's about if you have a personal aspiration, you should go ahead with that. Or otherwise, if your work demands for certain things, then you should go ahead with that. Otherwise, all the certifications are great. I've seen people who are just CISM, and that is okay. Don't have any kind of a techno-functional role. They are just responsible for designing the policies at the management level. That is so, or people who are from an auditing perspective, right? Don't require any kind of knowledge into the cloud or other things. They're just okay with CSAP. So that is how one should go ahead with it. That's, again, my personal perspective. People are they can go ahead and differ and disagree with this, but this is what I
I think that's very well said. I mean, this is a classic, risk management. What you want to do, where you want to be, and then you build the controls and assess the risk. So if you want to get a job that needs CISSP, for example, yeah, that's you need to take CISSP, and that's probably the best exam for you. And then you build in the relevant knowledge for that. So no, I fully agree. So I think as we move to we're kind of slightly over. So I'll just take two more questions. Prashant. So we've got a couple good questions. The first one is, what's the mindset we should have when reading Memory Palace? And on an average, you mentioned about some practice sets. How many questions should you practice? Just to get the feel, and then where you don't feel you're underprepared and you've used all the legitimate sources. So what's a good number of questions?
So the first question about the kind of a mindset that person should have while reading the Memory Palace. Memory Palace, you should pick it up once you're comfortable with the content. When you know everything as your primary source. It is just like I said. So that you are able to recollect everything. The reason I gave it a name. So it's the Palace is like you have all the concepts handy at one place, so that you don't have to refer multiple sources. You can simply skim through the pages and you validate that yes, I know this topic, and it's a kind of a comprehensive flashcard for you. Right? So if you just look at the topic, okay, you know this. Okay, you know this. It's a kind of a quick refresher. So the only time you should pick it up when you know the rest of the content earlier. This is no replacement. I'll add one small point on that. In case, if you have your own handwritten notes, those handwritten notes are 1,000 times better than the Memory Palace. Our own handwritten notes are gold mine. Trust me, they beat all the resources out there, right? Including Memory Palace. Own handwritten notes probably don't need Memory Palace at all. In case if you're kind of a lousy person who in writing or kind of being old school, yes, you can go and refer Memory Palace. But if you need to know the content. The second question is about how many practice questions we should take. Well, but it's good to practice at least 3,000 to 5,000 questions. At least to have that mind. It should not be less than 3,000. Again, people have taken only 2,000 questions. They have 8. People might after 6,000 questions. That's totally fine. But what I feel is you should at least take 3,000 to 1,000 questions. Anything between that, and that gives you a great perspective of what or how where questions should be answered. Those many questions are good enough. And if you start counting the credible resources, you will close to 7,000 questions. You have close to 7,000 to 8,000 questions out there. These are credible resources I'm talking about. Have plenty of resources. Just make sure that you make good use of them, and examination is all yours.
Yeah, awesome. So I think that was a great answer, and I hope everybody learned a lot. I definitely learned some tips from you, Prashant, and thank you once again. So it was great to having you and helping answer our questions. And then I also want to thank everybody who was in the audience asking questions. Very helpful. We will be recording this session and posting it on one of our social networks very soon. But I want to thank once again everybody, our moderators and admins. Thank you everyone, and Prashant, thank you. Really appreciate you taking time for us, and helping the community, and of course advancing the profession as always.
Thank you so much for having me here. All the very best, and wish you luck. Thank you for setting this up now, and thank you all the artists and moderators. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Okay, bye everyone.